Arrogance of the Empire. The Zarathian Empire had ruled the stars for over 10 millennia. From the icy moons of Drella to the molten mines of Korath, its banners flew unchallenged. To the Zarathians, conquest was routine, expansion inevitable, and resistance laughable. So when their scouts stumbled upon a small, blue-green planet on the outer rim of the Orion Arm, the report barely caused a ripple in the Imperial Council. The species that lived there, humans, were deemed insignificant. They had only recently mastered spaceflight beyond their star system, their weapons crude by galactic standards. The Council's analyst described them in one word: primitive. Admiral Valith, commander of the punitive fleet, spoke with a sneer as he addressed the Council. They are fractured, their world divided into squabbling nations. They war upon themselves with outdated machines. If they burn their own cities with fire and steel, what hope have they against us? A mere show of force will bring them to heel. The Council agreed. Why waste resources on a full invasion? A single fleet, barely a fraction of the Empire's might, would be enough to reduce Earth's leaders to trembling subjects. The decision was made. Earth would be brought under the Empire's yoke. Its resources would fuel the machine of conquest, and its people would join the endless tide of laborious slaves that kept the Zarathian throne shining. When the alien warship first appeared in Earth's orbit, the world froze. It was larger than any vessel humanity had ever built, its metallic skin reflecting sunlight like a blade. It moved with grace impossible for human engineering, a cathedral of war looming above the planet. Across every channel, the transmission played, a voice deep and resonant, translated by machines into every human tongue. Inhabitants of Sol 3, you stand before the Zarathian Empire, sovereign of the stars. Kneel, and you may be spared. Resist, and you will burn. In capitals across Earth, leaders gathered in frantic councils. The ultimatum was clear, but behind closed doors, no one suggested surrender. The broadcast of alien arrogance only hardened resolve. Still, humanity was not foolish. Their weapons were inferior. Their fleets, limited to low orbit, were ants before a leviathan. They needed time, knowledge, and every advantage they could steal. And so, they stalled. Polite messages of consideration and negotiation were sent back to the Zarathians, buying days, then weeks. All the while, Earth's brightest minds worked in feverish secrecy. Signals were intercepted and dissected. Engineers studied the electromagnetic footprints of alien drives. Cyber warriors probed for weaknesses in transmissions. Military leaders drew up plans that sounded suicidal on paper: orbital minefields, drone swarms, coordinated global cyber attacks. Yet desperate times demanded desperate brilliance. Humanity, for the first time in history, was uniting under one banner, not out of choice, but survival. From his throne world, the Zarathian Emperor barely acknowledged the reports from Sol 3. Humanity was beneath his notice. But in the shadows of Earth, something was stirring. For every city reduced to fear, 100 voices whispered defiance. And when humans whispered defiance, history had shown they rarely stopped there. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and soon it would pay the price. Humanity's defiance. The Zarathian fleet did not wait long to make its strength known. On the third week of orbit, Admiral Valith grew impatient with Earth's delaying tactics. He ordered the bombardment of several coastal cities, nothing more than a demonstration strike, in his words. From orbit, emerald lances of plasma rained down. Towers crumbled, harbors burned, and millions fled screaming as the night sky turned to fire. The Zarathians expected humanity to break, to plead for mercy. Instead, Earth answered with teeth bared. Within hours of the attack, a coordinated cyberstrike hammered the Zarathian fleet's communication relays. Hackers, working in basements, universities, and military command bunkers, flooded alien networks with malicious code. Half the fleet's targeting systems flickered, and several ships lost navigation entirely, drifting like blind giants. Then came the aircraft. By Zarathian standards, humanity's fighters were antiques, jets burning chemical fuel, armed with missiles designed for atmospheric dogfights. Yet when squadrons of them launched in synchronized waves, they fought with suicidal precision. Dozens were cut down by alien point defense, but others dove into plasma fire, loosing missiles at close range. A destroyer's hull ruptured, spilling atmosphere into the void. Across the globe, militaries had prepared unconventional strikes. Nations once bitter rivals now shared intelligence and launched coordinated assaults. Drones swarmed like hornets around lumbering cruisers. Experimental railguns hidden in mountain bunkers fired hypersonic projectiles into the sky, tearing holes through Zarathian armor. The coup de grace came when an alien frigate, crippled during the chaos, plummeted into the Pacific. Within hours, naval forces swarmed the wreck. By dawn, teams of scientists and engineers were prying open shattered compartments, pulling out fragments of drives, weapons, and alien computers. The Empire's arrogance had gifted humanity its first true prize. Admiral Valith raged as reports poured in. Hundreds of humans should not have been able to destroy even a single Zarathian vessel, let alone an entire squadron. Yet losses mounted. Every human strike was reckless, inventive, and utterly alien to the rigid doctrines of galactic warfare. The humans, it seemed, had no regard for rules. On Earth, the mood shifted. The devastation of the bombardments had left scars, but the victories ignited something fiercer than fear: unity. Crowds rallied around screens showing downed alien wreckage. The once divided nations of Earth declared a joint command, the United Terran Defense Council. For the first time in history, humanity spoke with one voice. The Zarathians had intended to terrify, to demonstrate superiority. Instead, they had revealed that their ships could be destroyed, their fleets resisted, their power challenged. Humanity, blooded but unbroken, had crossed a line. They were no longer just defending. They were beginning to dream of victory. From his flagship, Admiral Valith sent a desperate message back to the throne world. These humans are not what we believed. They do not break. They do not kneel. They fight like no species I have ever faced. Reinforcements must be dispatched immediately, or this war will spiral beyond control. But it was already too late. The war had begun in earnest. The war turns. The wreckage of the fallen frigate became humanity's Rosetta Stone. Every circuit board, every shard of alloy, every corrupted data core was a treasure. Labs across the globe worked day and night, reverse engineering the technology. At first, progress was slow. The Zarathian systems were alien beyond comprehension. But humans had always excelled at improvisation. What they couldn't fully understand, they adapted. What they couldn't replicate, they modified. Within months, Earth fielded its first prototypes, railguns enhanced with scavenged energy capacitors, drones shielded with fragments of alien plating, and missiles equipped with guidance systems stolen from broken hulls. The Empire believed humanity could never bridge centuries of technological difference. Humanity did it in weeks. By the time reinforcements arrived in Sol, the war had changed. Human fleets, once confined to low orbit, now launched daring raids beyond Earth. Armed with hybrid technology, they struck supply depots on Mars, ambushed convoys in the asteroid belt, and even followed fleeing Zarathian ships into deep space. One raid became legend: the assault on Outpost Dravix 9, a supply hub on the edge of the Empire's frontier. The United Terran Defense Council authorized a strike force cobbled together from captured drives, jury-rigged fusion engines, and sheer human stubbornness. The Zarathians laughed when they detected the incoming fleet. Their amusement turned to horror when the humans shut down their own drives mid-approach, coasting silently through the void. By the time Dravix 9 realized the attack was real, railguns ripped through its orbital defenses. Explosions painted the sky as human marines boarded the station. They seized not just weapons and fuel, but thousands of enslaved aliens who stared in awe at their liberators. For the first time in centuries, whispers of rebellion spread across the Empire. Within the Imperial Navy, doubts grew. No other species had ever resisted for this long. No other primitive world had ever inflicted such losses. Yet the humans, a people only decades removed from strapping themselves to chemical rockets, were destroying fleets. Admiral Valith, humiliated and recalled from Sol, faced disgrace at the imperial court. His testimony was dismissed as exaggeration. "They are only humans," scoffed a rival admiral. "Savages with toys." But Vailith's haunted eyes told another story. "You don't understand," he whispered. "They learn faster than any species should. Every battle we fight against them makes them stronger." Back on Earth, the United Terran Defense Council grew bolder. With each captured ship, they learned more. With each battle, humanity grew more unified. Politicians who once bickered over borders now spoke of expansion, retaliation, and liberation of the enslaved. The war was no longer about survival. Humanity was beginning to see the truth. If the Empire could bleed, it could fall. And if it could fall, then perhaps humanity could take its place among the stars, not as slaves, but as conquerors of their own destiny. The Empire pays the price. The Zarathian Empire had never known fear. For millennia, its fleets had crushed rebellions before they began, its rivals extinguished in fire. But as whispers spread of Terran victories, fear seeped into the cracks of its vast dominion. Worlds long enslaved began to stay. On mining colonies and labor camps, slaves passed rumors in hushed tones. The humans fight them. The humans win. For the first time in centuries, the impossible seemed possible. The Terran fleets struck deeper into enemy space. Their ships were still crewed by galactic standards, welded hybrids of human steel and stolen alien drives, but they were fast, brutal, and endlessly inventive. Where the Zarathians deployed rigid formations, the Terrans attacked in swarms, ambushes, and feints. Where the Empire relied on doctrine, humanity relied on unpredictability. The campaign reached its climax when the United Terran Defense Council authorized Operation Dawnfire, a direct assault on the Empire's core. The target was not a colony or supply hub, but the jewel itself, the Zarathian throne world of Zirath Prime. The Empire scoffed when scouts first reported human fleets moving toward the core. Yet those scoffs died when one bastion after another fell. Defense lines crumbled under relentless raids. Entire fleets disappeared in ambushes. Human cyber warfare, now mastered through trial and error, crippled command networks. By the time the Terrans reached Zirath Prime, the Empire was fractured. Hundreds of worlds rose in rebellion, slaves arming themselves with smuggled human weapons. The final battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human fleets poured into the system, hybrid vessels glowing with stolen technology. The Zarathian Imperial Armada, still vast, assembled to block them. For 3 days, the skies above Zirath Prime burned. Terran ships darted between capital vessels, hammering them with railgun fire. Boarding parties in armored dropships smashed into cruisers, fighting hand-to-hand in corridors built for giants. Entire human squadrons sacrificed themselves to shield carriers, their deaths calculated and chosen. The cost was staggering, but the Empire bled. On the 4th day, the Terrans broke through. A strike group pierced the defensive wall and bombarded the orbital ring surrounding Zirath Prime. Explosions cascaded across the Emperor's jewel. Imperial command collapsed. In the palace, the Zarathian Emperor looked down upon his burning world. For the first time, he understood the truth. "We made them into this," he whispered to his courtiers. "By seeking their chains, we forged our destroyers." Hours later, the palace fell. Human marines tore down the banners of the Empire and raised the flag of Earth. Zirath Prime was no longer the seat of tyranny. It was the symbol of liberation. But humanity did not enslave. Instead, they offered freedom. To the conquered species, they spoke, "We will not rule you. Stand with us, and no empire will ever chain you again." Across the stars, cheers rose from liberated throats. The galaxy would remember the lesson forever. The Empire underestimated humanity. The price: